All right, what's up, world? Welcome back to your favorite new Top 10 podcast, the Top 10 Movie Podcast with your boy Mike and my boy over there, Mulley. What's good, man?
It's good.
We're back again with another episode. We're back with you guys, or maybe you guys are back with us. Either way, we're here to do our thing, and we're glad to have you with us. This week's episode is, and by now, if you guys have been following us, you guys should know now, we like to do what's called one for them, which is what we do 5 and 5 to make a complete 10, whereas our normal format is 10 and 10. But this week's list was something I don't think either of us were really confident in, so we did 5. At least I wasn't, so we just did 5 and 5. So
You
this
should
is,
be way more confident than me.
yeah, I don't not this time.
Okay.
But this is we're doing the top 10 animated films.
Yes.
And instantly, Molly pitched this to me, and I said, "Well, I can probably do 5 and 5."
Yeah.
And as of like this morning, like as you guys know, normally I do my full list really the night of, like at 3 in the morning or the day before, the day we record. Well, this time I had 3 come to mind instantly, and I did that like a week ago. But then I was stuck on 3, and I needed 2 more, and I really almost just came in here with 3, and I said surely Molly's gonna have 7 or 8 because he always goes over. But I thought, well, let me at least try to come up with 2 more, and then as I'm getting ready to come here to record today, the last 2 hit me, and so I got my 5. But all that to say that this was not an easy list to come up with, even though it's 5. For me, anyway, I've watched a ton of animated films. Like obviously, as kids growing up, you watch all the classics,
Right.
but many of them I didn't remember well enough that I felt confident enough to come in and speak about. So
Yeah.
I tried to pick 5 that I thought were still kind of fresh in my head that I could give some speaking points to. Mm-hmm. And so that's how I got my list. Now, how about you, though?
I am not a fan of animated films. I don't watch animated films, especially in the last, I don't know, 10 years or so. That I could tell you about a handful that I've watched, and I don't think I've enjoyed any of them. So I am not big on animated films anymore. That being said, the way that I approached this was that, all right, so of all the animated films that I've ever seen, what are my top 5? What are 5 of them that I, would potentially watch again or that I think I enjoyed the most? So that's how I approached this. So then, I just did a bunch of research about what are the top animated films ever made, and try to find those that I remembered, and then it actually started to come a little bit easier. Then I was able to come up with my 5 relatively easily after that. I wasn't really searching too much in the dark or trying to scramble to find one. But yeah, I will say that I am not a fan of the genre. Although I did make this argument. I think this argument could be made that if the visionary for the story, the writer, the director, and the animator are all the same person who make a film, that might be the purest form of vision to film that there is. There may not be, no, not even the best film directors in the world may not be able to, they can't, part of the issue is they can't get the vision that's in their head that they want onto film for people to watch. But an animator who's also the writer and the director can shape every single aspect of that animated film to make it the purest vision, the purest transfer between his mind onto the screen that I think can ever be achieved. The actors can look the way that you want them to look. They can potentially sound the way you want them to sound. The environment or the locations don't matter because you're going to draw them. The story's going to go exactly the way that you want, to be the tone that you want. I mean, it might be, in all honesty, perfect filmmaking when it comes to a non-collaborative effort. Because when you collaborate with other people, you have to take their vision into account. You have to take their style into account. Like, there's a lot of hands into these films that we love. There's those credits are full of hundreds of people. But if it's just one guy or one woman, one man making their vision and they're able to animate it and draw it and show it to you, that might be the purest form of filmmaking.
Are you saying this because you know of one person who's done this?
No, I'm just
Okay.
throwing it. I'm sure. I know that there are. I'm sure there are, but it's just for as much as I bag on animated movies, it may be a more pure art of filmmaking as far as direct vision into actual end product. You know, because one of the things that I always struggled with in making my own films was that I never was the right, like the actors were never, you know, sometimes you just have to go with who you have, and you can never get the locations that you want because they're too expensive, or like, you know, the insurance that it costs to like have that location was not great.
You got
Not
insurance for your
considered-
films? Yikes!
Well, yeah, I mean, so a lot of times it was guerrilla stuff, but there are times where, like, one time I was producing a film and they wanted an entire street blocked off in Dallas, you know, to film there. And I had to try to work with the city to do that. And they had a parade going through that day and all this stuff you had to work with. You had to hire police officers, off duty police officers I mean, there were so many restrictions. And that was just one, like, kind of just, you know, medium budget short film. Think a major motion picture, it's like thousands of times even more complicated. And I'm sure the vision, oftentimes the vision of what the writer has and what the director has and what the end product is totally different. They're all different people. It's like that game where you whisper something in one person's ear and that person has to whisper something in another
Oh,
person's ear.
telephone.
Right. That's like modern filmmaking almost. It's like it goes through so many different filters. It's never quite what it was supposed to be at the end. You know, maybe sometimes it's better. A lot of times it's worse, I think. But all right, that's a long diatribe to go into about animated
I was
films.
trying to figure out how are you gonna loop this back around.
But I will say this: that as much as, like I said, as much as I bag on them, and I'm not a big fan of them. Again, they may be, you know, more the end product may actually represent the vision more, you know, the writing more, those things that because you can just control some of the elements of it
You've definitely given this a lot more thought than I
a
did.
little bit, maybe.
I'm glad though, because I didn't. So.
Okay, so would you like me to dive into my first one? Because
Please.
maybe I added all the talking at the beginning because I don't think there's going to be much talk about this.
Could be. Well, I mean, since I introed, you start off with the list.
Okay, so mine. I think anybody who's listened to this podcast knows that I have an affinity for the superhero genre, and this was the sole superhero genre movie that I have on this list, and it comes from Brad Bird, who directed also. He actually directed Mission Impossible: Ghost Protocol, Ratatouille, The Iron Giant. This movie is called The Incredibles, and The Incredibles is about a family of undercover guest superheroes that's forced to like come out of retirement, the father and the mother anyway, and involve their children to help save the world, you know, as one would in a superhero movie. But it's the reason why I like this movie so much is the way that they portray the superhero family. It is just a family, and the father, he's a retired superhero, but he has like a mundane job now, and he's still got superpowers, but he's like trying to live a normal life, full of frustrations and you know, really denying kind of that superhero part of himself. And ultimately, I don't think he wants to do that, but he's doing it to sacrifice for his family, make his wife happy, and you know, try to live something normal for them and for her. And ultimately, they just become who they are, and they are called to use all of their powers, which are like really cool to see them work as a family together. At first, they're not working together. They haven't learned. They're not a team yet, but they learn to be one by the end of the film, and it's really cool. But yeah, so The Incredibles for me, I think, is one of the best animated movies I've ever seen. Mike, did you ever watch The Incredibles, and what did you think of it?
Seen it once. I was gonna say I saw it too late, but it wasn't that I saw it too late. It was that when it came out, I was already an adult.
Yeah,
Because this was what 06?
this is '04.
Okay, 04. So yeah, I was 24, not as old as I thought, but I didn't see this right away. So I caught it on DVD much later, and I just remember the whole idea of a family of superheroes. It's an actual family was cool. Like you said, the way they portray just like the everyday aspect of family life, and then they have to come together basically to be basically the Avengers because they all have these different powers to stop this evil, and then even Samuel L. Jackson's character comes in and helps out and assists. It was just cool to see that dynamic from an animated perspective because we've never seen anything like that before. It looks great. Even 18 years later, it holds. No, 20 years later, holds up really well.
Visually.
Yeah, I
really
never saw the
crisp.
sequel, but the first one was cool. I remember when I saw of it. The Flash is one of my favorite characters. So to get to see the oldest son who has that power,
Right.
it's cool to see. But I like their approach of we're just a regular family trying to navigate the everyday life, which also happen to have superpowers.
And Craig T. Nelson plays the father, voices the father. Holly Hunter voices the mother. I think they were pitch perfect. They were
Yeah.
perfect casting. Those voices fit perfectly with the actions that were happening and the parents. And yeah, I think it was an instant classic. I loved it when I watched it, and yeah, it was. You could tell that there was a lot of skill that was done in that filmmaking and that animation. There's a lot of skill and love that went into that. But also, there's a very I have an understanding of the superhero tropes and trying to fit that into a kind of a real life scenario was really cool, and I thought they did an excellent job. So, The Incredibles lands on my list.
Good list. It lands on the list. I like that. That was good. So for my list, my five, I actually have two superhero movies.
Oh,
So
okay.
we're doing. This is the second episode I think in a row where Mike's breaking the rule here.
Mike is breaking Mike's traditional rule.
Yes, I'm breaking
Yes.
tradition again.
Yeah, yeah.
Two superhero movies out of five, and no horror films.
Wow.
I guess I could have put Coraline, but I didn't want to. It's not really animated. It's like stop motion, which I guess could fit in that category.
Stop motion is animation. I looked it
Okay,
up
all right,
just to
thank
make
you.
sure.
All right. Well, for mine again, like I said, superhero. The first one, you've heard me talk about this movie many times about how much I love it, how the animation style is so different from anything we've seen before from Disney, Pixar, whoever else, and it covers one of the most beloved superhero characters of all time in Spider-Man. But this is actually the sequel in that trilogy, which the third one's not out yet. We're still waiting and highly anticipating for the third one. But this is Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
Now, I guess normally you could put the first one on there, which is Into the Spider-Verse, because it's just the first one. But oftentimes, and you've mentioned this before in another episode, like you kind of really can't talk about a franchise without mentioning the first one and how sometimes, most of the time, the first one's the best. But I also kind of feel like when you're talking about the best movie in a franchise, just to say that okay, I think it's the best one because without it you wouldn't have the rest. That's true, but I think it also makes adding the first one obligatory. And I mean, to me, the second one is just far superior to the first one. It not only builds upon what the first one introduces, but it just gives us so many more threads to pull on moving forward for what's hopefully like is just as an amazing finale in the franchise. And if they pull it off, I'm claiming best animated franchise of all time.
Okay.
But like I said, Spider-Man is such a storied history with fans of all ages, all generations, and they continue to find new ways to introduce the character Spider-Man to new generations. Whether it's Spider-Gwen or Spider-Woman or Miguel O'Hara or Miles Morales, Peter Parker.
Yeah.
There's so many iterations, and in this film you meet all of them in some form or fashion, whether they have speaking roles or not. You see it, and to me, this is top tier animation. It looks like it's taken off the page of a newspaper. Where like if you zoom in with the magnifying glass on a newspaper, you can see the different little pixelated dots.
I like little dimples.
Yeah, to make the image. And what's cool about this movie is each universe that they go in is a different animation style. There's a different variation on it. But the story's so good. Like it's an animated film, but it's not just for kids. I know a lot of movies that they make are animated now. You can have threads of things, the story that are for adults, but
Yes.
this one, I mean, across the board, there's so many elements in it. There's action. There's a little bit of thrill in it. There's a little bit of horror in this. There's comedy. There's some emotional beats that really tug at the heartstrings. Like it just kind of encompasses like what I think the theater experience should be. It should be a little bit of everything. I'll never forget the feeling I had at the end of this, which I know you're not a fan of the ending because it's not a true conclusive ending. It's a cliffhanger, which not everybody really knew. But for me, it just left me so hyped, and I felt so energized by the ending. I legit had chills. By the end of that, they got that guitar riff playing in the background, played by Daniel Pemberton, the score, the composer. And you have the Gwen Stacy character recruiting the other Spider-Man to go help out Miles. This movie, old and young, you can watch this and find something from it and enjoy it. There's so much in it. Like it's hip, it's youthful, it's an ode to the classic Spider-Man. There's so much to pick apart from this movie. And just even for not take all that off the table, just be in awe of the animation style. I just love it. Never seen anything like it.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to Beyond the Spider-Verse.
Yeah, it's a unique. When the first one came out, one of the things was just this eye popping, art style, and where I kind of found it disorienting at times myself. I certainly recognize though the creativity that went and the work that went into it, and that has influenced how it influenced other animation, but also obviously the second one continued in that same vein, and it gives it a uniqueness that it stands alone against all the other animated movies. So it's good. Mine, you're talking about what we consider now maybe one of the more pinnacle of computer animation. My next one on my list was The Start. Was the very first computer animated movie, and this is Toy Story.
It's on my list too.
Back in '95. Yeah, in this one we talked about in The Incredibles how the voice cast was so good. I think this is even better. Tom Hanks and Tim Allen, they hit it out of the park. Their relationship as those two characters, Woody and Buzz Lightyear, it's really a movie about their relationship. On top of being what do toys do when you're not looking was kind of the tagline to entice people to watch it. Also, the jealousy between Woody and Buzz, more on Woody's side because he feels like he's getting overthrown. That's a bigger symptom of them being grown out of as toys. You know what I mean? So they have to prepare themselves for that, but basically it's a family of toys, and they take care of each other, and they work together to protect one another. And a lot of this movie, it's really the spark of the movie is the arrival of a new toy in Buzz Lightyear, and he's not just a new toy. He's like this. The beacon of technology, almost like he's so new. He's got all these nice tricks. He's got this laser. He's got the wings, but part of it is his naivete. He thinks he is this character. He doesn't know that he's a toy. He thinks he is Buzz Lightyear, and him having to come to terms to that is part of the greatness of this movie. And but mainly, it's just him doing some crazy things because he thinks he's really the real thing. And things happen to allow him to think so. And then Woody trying to not only come to terms with his own jealousy of the new toy, but also now having to save him from himself and from Woody's own actions against him because of his jealousy. So ultimately, it becomes a very heartwarming type movie, and it's carried on into the other movies to where I think kind of the pinnacle of that is 3, where they're all. In Toy Story 3, they're all about to get incinerated and they're holding hands. That's like that brought tears to my eyes at that moment, and it's crazy to say that about an animated toy film that it could have that much emotion. But by that time, by the third one, you've been with these characters so long, there's an emotional connection, a big one. But this is the one that started it out, and again, we're talking about I'm sure we'll talk about more computer animated movies. On our list, but this is the one that started it. And you go back, and it is kind of rough, that first one. You go back and watch it because it's so beautiful now. The Spider-Man movie, like you just mentioned, is a part of it. The animation is so beautiful. You go back and you go watch the first Toy Story. It's rough. They don't even show human faces in this movie because they just showed legs and voices. And even the best part of the movie, which is the toys themselves, which are, were easier to animate, they're pretty rough by today's standards. But it's been 30 years. So 30 years of computer animation knowledge and advancement has made a film like Into the Spider-Verse possible. And this is kind of the movie that started it all. Plus, it's just a really good story. So the voice cast is out of this world. It's a great story that has a lot of heart, and it was the first of its kind. Of its kind that set us on the track that we are now. So like your Spider-Man movie wouldn't exist, probably the same. The like movies like the movies that are popular right now, the Despicable Me's, the Frozen's, those movies, they're all computer animated, and this is the granddaddy of them all.
I agree. That was a great talking point. I don't really have anything else to add. I don't really have anything else to add, other than I just remember when it came out, just being 15 when I saw it when it first came out. Like I was still, like I was a late bloomer. Like I was still kind of like aging out of toys at 15. I mean, I was still like doing the outside stuff with sports with my friends in the neighborhood and video games and all that. But I was still at my own time. I had toys at that time, and so it was kind of paralleling Andy, the character, the human in the film, who's basically I think they were moving, right, and it was a kind of about letting go of in a way childish ways and toys and not playing with those anymore because I'm too old. So I kind of saw myself in a lot of that, and I just remember it just makes me always think of your youth, how innocent it was. You're playing make believe with these toys, whatever it's G.I. Joe or Transformers or Ninja Turtles, whatever it was.
Come to life.
Yeah, exactly. And then, like you said, like I think one of the taglines was, "What are the toys doing when you're not around or in the house?"
Right.
Whatever. Like I watched that movie and then I started to think, well, what are my toys doing when I'm not, when I'm outside, when I'm at school or whatever?
You know that had to be the genesis of the idea.
Of course, yeah, that's a great premise. And I think that spanned like over what 20 years of a franchise. That they have Toy Story 4 is the most recent, so it still has an audience, like old and young, because the people that start with one, like
Right.
us, we go back and watch, and
This is now the Toy Story 1's considered a classic now,
Yeah.
and it should be. 30 years is a long
like you said,
time.
revolutionary because of the CGI.
Yeah,
So,
the technology
Yeah.
used to make it. Yeah.
great choice though.
On both of our lists. So
Yeah.
great choice by you as well.
And it's funny because that was also the second on our list.
All right.
So we'll go to the number 3 on my list, which is a classic, which I liked. I liked it, but I didn't want to admit it at the time because we only saw it because my sister wouldn't stop talking about it. She wanted to see this movie so bad, and I get it because it's really geared more towards the little girls audience.
Okay.
Females. So my sister and I, my parents, we all went as a family and saw it. And afterward, my sister bought the soundtrack, and like to this day, like some of those songs are still resonating in my head because she played that cassette tape over and over and over again. This movie's Pocahontas.
Oh.
Yeah. Now, obviously, this is about the Native Americans and the Pilgrims coming to America, and of course, because it's Disney, it's a love story. So we're talking about Disney. So now we're talking about that animation style, which has been different from the other three we discussed. But as I've gotten older, I've learned the truth about Thanksgiving and the Pilgrims coming over. Like I know the dark truth about it.
It's problematic.
Yeah, it's very
Yeah.
problematic. Yeah, but back then, whenever this came out, '93, I think '92.
Yeah.
I'm 12 or 13, so I didn't know any better.
No.
And my sister surely didn't know. She's 4 years younger than me at the time, and so yeah, it stands out because I remember how much love she had for it and for the story, and then how she bought the soundtrack and played the heck out of it.
Yeah.
To the point, like I said, where I knew a lot of the words from the songs, and even to this day, she and I still joke about some of the songs and the lyrics. And even like recently, I now have a niece that's in high school, and she's a senior, and she's in choir, and they recently had like a recital, and she actually did a solo, and she did one of the songs from the soundtrack,
Oh, that's
and she
great.
picked it because of her mom, my sister's love for the movie soundtrack,
nice.
and the best part about it was she sang it and hit all the notes, the high notes, low notes, and she had range and carried, and she didn't mess up anything. It was perfect. So Pocahontas had to be on there because there's some relevancy with it because hearing my niece sing and then
Yeah.
my sister's love and passion for the film, wanted to see it so bad and annoying me about it, and just basically sitting there like with the stone face on, like I hate to be here, but really deep down I'm actually enjoying it. So that's for all those things, it had to be on the list.
I got you. And look, and you're talking about the Disney animation style, and there was a run of Disney movies, specifically in the '90s, there that were among the best and beloved, most beloved animated movies. And the next one on my list falls into that category, but mainly for one reason, and we'll get into it. But the movie's called Aladdin from 1992, and this one, for me, there's only really one reason why Aladdin stands out above all the other Disney movies, and that's Robin Williams. Like his performance as the genie makes that movie for me. Like that movie is memorable mainly because of him. They tried to remake this movie with Will Smith in that role. I didn't bump up against that. I actually watched that. It was a Guy Ritchie film.
Excuse me?
Guy Ritchie directed that movie.
What?
Yeah. And that actually, it actually, I mean, this is my opinion, but I think it actually holds up. It's pretty good. It's not this. It's not the animated film, and Will Smith is not Robin Williams by any sense of the imagination. But the film itself, the story, its retelling of the story, Will Smith, I don't bump into him being the genie. It actually works out okay for me, and it's a little hokey at times with him at it, but it is a genie. And look, and so he's able to come up and conjure things, and he needs to be jovial. And when you're trying to live up to one of the best performances by Robin Williams, you're often going to come up short anyway, no matter what you do. So to even attempt to try to fill the shoes of him is insane. But I thought he did an admirable job, and the filmmaking was good, and I liked. I didn't bump into it at all. I think of all the movies that I have seen, which hadn't been many, of where they've tried to take an animated movie and make it into real life, Aladdin's the best one to me. And that's going to be sacrilege for some people because they like The Lion King, or they may like Beauty and the Beast, or they may like the Little Mermaid movie better. The transition to live action. To me, I thought Aladdin was the best, in my opinion. But anyway, let's go back to this. This is 92. This is right in the heart of that Disney animation of The Lion King, of Little Mermaid, those big tentpole animated movies that Disney came out with that they constantly put in their vault, so you couldn't get copies of them that would make them more rare. And Aladdin is right in there with them, and I think, to me, because of the performance of Robin Williams and how much fun he makes this movie, I think he elevates, for me, Aladdin above the rest when it comes to animated films.
Yeah, okay, yeah, no, I almost put this on my list. But like I said, that was 92, so that was 32 years ago. So I just don't have enough of a memory of most of it. I actually played I think it was the Super Nintendo version of this game.
Oh,
So I remember playing, that stands out to me more than the movie. Because I remember, like,
dude, we got to come out with a list of those. Like, what are the better games of movie? Because there's so many games that came out. Maybe the worst, 5 worst movie games. Because there's so many to choose from.
yeah, but I probably didn't play a lot of those because they were the worst.
That's true. That is true.
But yeah.
So to interrupt your thought.
No, you're good. But yeah, I played this game. I remember beating Jafar at the end was very frustrating.
Beating Jafar.
Yeah, 'cause
Wow,
he's
that's crazy.
in front of
What an
us.
end boss.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it's I almost put it on the list because it's if Aladdin can pull it off and get the girls out of his league, anybody can do it. Especially to see that at 12, 13 years old.
Yeah.
That gave me a lot of hope. It got the street rat, they called him.
I can marry a princess?
Yeah, exactly. That's all I need is a magic carpet to woo her, and then her riches become mine, basically. And then my best friend is Apu, the little monkey.
Oh yeah, Pooh, dude. What a BFF.
Yeah.
Right there.
So I mean, that's he had loyalty.
Man.
He had loyalty. He got the girl. And the thing was, as a street rat, he wasn't like down and out in a situation. He wasn't like woe was me. He didn't play the victim. He was like living his best life.
He was.
And then he found the genie and the magic carpet, and the rest is history.
Doing parkour there in the
Yeah,
streets.
exactly.
The whole bit. Yeah, he's living a good life. That was my pick, Aladdin.
All right.
What's next on your list?
So we're gonna advance the animation style a little bit, and we're gonna move ahead roughly 16 years. I
Ooh.
believe '08 is when the movie came out. Could be wrong, but Seinfeld is one of my top 5 favorite sitcoms of all time.
Okay.
I love Seinfeld. I recently got to check off a bucket list item, and I saw him perform in July for my birthday. Treated myself. It was everything I thought it could be, and I was glad I got to catch him perform because I think he's close to 70 now. So it gets to a point with some of these entertainers that reach a certain age.
He looks good for
He
70.
looks
by the
great.
way.
I mean, he's rich, so I mean, I can see.
Yeah, I think it's genes too. I think he's got good genes.
I think so too. But it gets to a point where some of these people that you are fans of, they get to a certain age, you start to think, they may not do this much longer. And so the opportunity presented itself. I got to see him, and it was everything I thought it could be. I would definitely see him perform again. He still got it. And so with Seinfeld, he stars in the Bee Movie.
Dude, he still talks about that movie.
Yeah, I love that movie.
He loves bees.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a really weird
Yeah.
kink, but hey, whatever.
No, I mean, I think he loves bees. I mean, that's why it's the bee movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's still pushing that movie. I think I was recently saw an interview with him. He's still talking about that movie.
No, I don't. I love that movie. I actually, because I'm such a huge fan of Seinfeld, I actually went to the theater and saw this. I don't have kids, but I was
Yeah.
there, right there, laughing at every joke.
Move over, kid.
Yeah,
I got to see the bee movie.
I'm probably laughing more just because I know it's Seinfeld's voice, and he already has a very animated cadence when he speaks, especially if you watch the show. And so it's just amped up even more to play this bee. And the sidekick just reminds me of George Costanza, like that's his best friend sidekick. You have Renee Zellweger as the voice of the human he falls in love with, which is kind of strange. And then her boyfriend's a tennis player, voiced by Patrick Warburton,
Oh,
who
yes.
played Putty from Seinfeld.
Tick?
Then also the Tig, which I think no one knows up except for maybe the two of us.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
But no, this movie it's kind of got a lot of different moving pieces to it. It's basically a Bug's Life or Ants, but it's about bees, and it just kind of talks about the life of bees and what they go through. It's in a humorous way. They talk about how they pick their career and whatever they pick, that's what they do for the rest of their life. And they talk about how, when you sting somebody, you die. And his friend stings somebody, and he's like on his deathbed in the film. It's really comical. It's funny. There's a Chris Rock cameo as, I think, like a mosquito stuck in a windshield, which is really funny because him and Jerry the Bee have a conversation, and it was just really funny. And when this movie's on, I think I got the DVD somewhere still. I love watching this movie. It's entertaining. It's cool to see what we as filmmakers think a bee's life could possibly be, or an ant, or just a bug's life, whatever. But everything's bright and colorful. It's yellow and black, and I just remember so many moments like he's trying to go through his closet and he's trying to figure out what to wear today. And of course, his closet, everything is yellow and black. And he's like, black and yellow, black and yellow, black and yellow. Oh, yellow and black. I'll grab this. So,
It's good to know.
it's just, it's like typical Jerry Seinfeld. If you like his kind of humor, then you're going to love this movie. And that's the B movie.
Yeah, I think that's two back-to-back movies here from me, one from you, where the actor portraying the voice kind of transcends the movie or puts it on another level.
For sure.
us.
For sure.
All right, so now I'm going to take you back. Actually, the last two movies on my list are pretty old. But I do think they're a couple of the best in their particular genre. Before Disney had a kind of a animation boom in the mid 90s, they were known for a similar animation style, but it was more like definitely more grittier. But it's more like, remember Sword in the Stone?
Oh, I love that movie.
That kind of movie. I don't. Cinderella's not in that. That's a little bit further back. But the movie that I always find myself gravitating to when it comes to those older movies and that kind of era, the 60s and 70s, it's just surprising to me that not a lot more people talk about this movie, but I think it might be one of the best. I know it is one of the best, but it could be arguably the best version of this character, despite it being seen live action numerous times. But Robin Hood from 1973 is portrayed as a fox, and Little John as a bear, and all these different characters from the Robin Hood narrative played as animals, and then placed into this genre, this particular time period of Disney animation with songs and the style that it was. It is a classic, and to me, maybe the best Robin Hood story that there is. That's a big tale to say, because I think that that the Robin Hood, I think the best Robin Hood story probably is from the 1930s, 40s,
Oh,
that older version of
yeah.
Robin Hood. I like, Kevin Costner's version of Robin Hood. I know a lot of people
Prince
don't.
of Thieves.
Prince of
Yeah.
Thieves, because he doesn't have an accent. A lot of it is that. I think there's the new version of Robin Hood with Taron Egerton is something. The one before that was Russell Crowe. I actually thought I liked that take on the Russell Crowe Robin Hood. And I'm sure I'm missing some Robin Hoods between all those. But to me, this animated feature of Robin Hood is the most wholesome and kind of it adds the fairy tale element a bit to it. But on looking back at it and watching a little bit of it now, I watched it to get ready for this. I mean, it does talk about like Little John and Robin trying to avoid getting hung.
Oh,
And
yeah.
in a cartoon, that might be a little heavy-handed now. And I'm sure that's not the only elements of it that will ring some of the older ideas that what was okay for children to watch and what wasn't is a lot more filtered now than it was back then. So there's probably more evidence of that kind of, I guess, older thinking than that. So, but to me, I was always a children's movie. I was always enamored with the Maid Marian as the beautiful fox, and him and their relationship, and him swinging in to save the day, and the guy, the evil guys are just so evil, and the fake king as a lion, and then the sheriff was like he sounded like the country deputy from the Dukes of Hazzard. He had, I think it's almost the same. It seemed like the same voice actor or the same actor. But he has this kind of really snarly countrified voice. So even they're not staying with the whole England, this is England type thing. But the best thing about that movie is the transition or the change from human to animal. So they just picked animals that kind of embody the characters more. And I think it's the idyllic Robin Hood to me.
Yeah, until you mentioned it, I completely forgot the movie existed.
Yeah.
But once you mentioned it, I forgot that I, as a kid, did enjoy watching that.
Yeah, I
And
think
then,
it's
and even
one of
like
the best.
having animals play the human characters, like as a kid, you don't even think about that.
No.
You just think, oh, this is another animated movie. It's a cartoon, so it's whatever.
Mm-hmm.
At that point, well, I won't say at that point when it came out, but when we were watching it as kids, most of the cartoons we watched were animals. You could defend Alvin and the Chipmunks and Garfield.
That's true.
So, or other robots like Transformers, and also it was just like, or Tom and Jerry was another show out at the same time, around that same time. I love Tom and Jerry to this day, the Looney Tunes. So, a lot of the animation style from back then, the '60s, was similar. So, for us as kids, we didn't think anything of it.
But it's like, I think it was unique in the sense that it was taking a known character that was played by humans, and then it's switching that over. So
Yeah.
it would be like, Fast and Furious, but instead of Vin Diesel, it's a bear.
I don't know about that.
You know what I mean?
A little too far fetched.
It is, and you just make it children-fied or whatever that's called. But yeah, I mean that's kind of the thing that made it kind of unique, that it was an established character, and they just basically, where you take an older story, maybe like a Beauty and the Beast, or even in Atlanta, they're still human characters. They're drawing humans. You know what I mean? Even the genie in Aladdin that we talked about, appears as human. You know what I mean? This is taking established people and then making them into animals. So anyway, yeah, I think I said enough about that. 1973, long time ago.
Yeah,
Robin Hood.
you're much more passionate about this than I am, for sure.
Okay.
Which is great. Pat that runtime.
Yeah, it's getting
Because since we both had Toy Story,
Yeah.
I'm on my last one, so
Okay.
we're actually gonna shortchange you guys. We're gonna have 9, but whatever. It's
Well, it happens. It
Yeah.
happens when you come up with separate lists.
the last one from our list. This is the one that I think may surprise you.
Okay.
I've only seen it once, but it's a very popular comic arc, and they made an animated film about it. They even did this on the TV show series as well, but I think the animated version is probably the closest to the source material. This is Flashpoint.
Flash. Oh, the Flash.
Flash.
Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah.
So that the whole story, I'm sure most people listening don't even know, but so in comic books, the Flash's mother was killed when he was young. And so in this comic book arc and in the movie, he decides to go back in time to. Now it's all been quiet. See?
No, you're good. There's a lot of people.
Yeah, he decides to go back in time and save his mother from being killed. But when he does that, he actually messes up the whole uh, timeline, and a lot of the Justice League members, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, are all fighting against each other. There's like a war between the Atlanteans and where is Wonder Woman from?
Oh, it's an,
Themyscira.
yeah, it's the mascara.
Yeah, but they're like there's like a war between the two of them. In this universe or this timeline, Batman's not Bruce Wayne, but it's Thomas Wayne, Bruce's dad. So he's still alive. Martha's been killed, and I think even Thomas kills. This version of Batman kills. I want to say
Yeah, he's more deadly.
he's more deadly. Yeah.
Yes.
But the Flash realizes in trying to go back and save his mother from being killed, he's messed up the timeline. So then he has to work with Batman, or get Batman to work with him to fix the timeline and get back to his regular.
Suspiciously like a movie.
Yeah, yeah,
The movie The Flash.
right. But yeah, it's like I said, this is like I'm grasping at straws here, y'all. Like I was trying to think of one to fill out the list. This is what I came up with literally like the last minute.
No, look, it came to your mind. It's all right.
But I mean, like I said,
You
it's
enjoyed it.
if you're like the Flash is my favorite DC character.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I gotta watch this movie, and it was really entertaining. And I knew what the basic storyline was, and him going back in time and mess up the timeline.
Yeah.
But I got to see like, other elements too, and see how the other Justice League members were actually at war with each other for whatever reason. Like he just jacked up the timeline. You just don't mess with time, and he's one of the few superheroes who still has that ability to do that. But it's because you have the powers. I mean, you should use it.
There you go.
This is a prime example of this. Sometimes you just gotta leave things the way they are. You just gotta accept the way things are.
I gotta tell you, I went down the superhero road a little bit further past the Incredibles as well, trying to see if there was one of those Batman, Superman movies that come out that are all animated. You know, Batman Day One, or Year One. Maybe that would be, or Killing Joke was one that I was considering.
We saw that one together.
The Batman Beyond, Return of the Joker was a really big consideration for
Yeah, I
me,
heard about that.
which I really enjoyed that movie. And actually was surprised, Mike, you did not include, I don't even know how you feel about this movie, but I am surprised you didn't have the Lego movie on yours.
I never saw it.
Okay, there
That's
we go.
why,
That
yeah.
would be why. Yeah, it's not on mine either. So I went down that road with the superhero things as well with Flashpoint. I remember seeing that. I did think that was really good, and so that's a good choice. So the last one on my list, I'm gonna have to ask the listeners for a little bit of grace.
But you did your 5.
No, I got one more left.
I thought you said you were done. Okay.
No, I just went down. I just talked about some of the movies that I thought he was going to be in yours, and talked about that Batman thing. But no, I still have one more. Okay, so the reason why I need to ask the audience for a little grace on this one, because this movie never actually came out in theaters. Now, it got remade into a movie that did go out in theaters, but it's not the original, and I like the original. It was a television special when this came out. It was 55 minutes long without commercials. So when I remember it as a movie because it would show on television nearly yearly with commercials. It'd be an hour and a half long, and I always thought it was a movie. And so when I put it on this list, to me, I thought it was a movie, but it didn't come out at all ever in theaters. So please forgive me for that. And I could have changed it, but I like this so much, and I needed to represent this kind of movie, I thought, on this list. So it's a movie that a lot of us watch at a certain time of year. That time of year is at Christmas time, and this is a stop motion animation movie, and it's called Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer from 1964. So originally aired on television. Bert Ives, who's a big part in this movie, and it is the same director that did Frosty the Snowman, the stop animation, The Little Drummer Boy. So it is the classic Christmas for me anyway, even though it was made before I was born. It's kind of that classic. Every time I see it, it puts me in the Christmas mood. And in recent years, actually, Mike, this movie's come under some criticism because of the bullying that takes place in the movie. I know. I had a similar reaction as well. And the argument, obviously, is that 1963, and it's just, and it's, it's reindeer, and in particular, there's a coach that won't let Rudolph play in the quote unquote reindeer games.
I can promise you, in 1963, there were far bigger issues happening than that.
So I just wanted to say that I noticed that was something about it. But for me, this style of animation is a lost art. It's not something we see hardly anymore. I know that you had mentioned
Coraline.
Coraline. Also, there's that one with Tim Burton, the Tim Burton
Nightmare Before Christmas, yeah.
The stop animation, right? Stop. Am I saying that right? Stop.
Or stop motion.
Stop motion. That's one. Stop motion animation.
It's time consuming for one. Have you ever seen like how some of that stuff is
Yeah,
shot?
insanely time.
Yeah.
But the look, and maybe it's part of the nostalgia for me is the look of that look in the snow and the snowman, the Bert Ives snowman that comes out and talks in that voice, and the little reindeer and the red nose, and ultimately it's a story about embracing your difference. The differences that make us unique. It's not everyone else is taught to conform and to hide maybe their differences in order to fit in. When in fact the thing that makes you different could make you invaluable and special, and does in this movie with Rudolph's red nose. So it tells a great, arguably, I guess, a great moral story, and always to me was kind of like a Christmas regular. So if we're going to talk about my greatest animated movies, and stop motion is considered animation, then I think that style of animation deserves a spot on the list, and this is the one that I think that I've seen the most.
Okay.
That's it. That's that from my list.
I'm gonna tell you what, man. I have zero energy. I feel exhausted. Like it was a struggle to get through this list. Yeah, this is definitely not my A game. This is my G League game.
Well, look, this is not our traditional, like we usually talk about live action movies. So this is a bit out of our wheelhouse, just a little bit. I'm sure there's a lot of people that are listening that are way more passionate about animated movies than we are. So we definitely tried our best and tried something a little bit out of our typical expertise. But still, as movie lovers, we have seen animated movies clearly, and these are what we think are the best ones that we've seen. Now the question pivots to the real experts there, the people listening to us here on the show. What are some of the best animated movies that I know me and Mike missed? We must have missed tons of animated movies that you guys love.
I know one person in particular who's going to be like, you didn't say this movie, you didn't say this movie. Sorry.
Well, hey, let us know about it in the comments, right? Or on social media. We want to hear back from you. YouTube, Instagram, X, and Facebook. We're all on all of those. And interacting with people on all of those as well. And we hope that you'll join in and do the same, and let us know what you think about our content, and obviously we want to hear those lists from you. So if you have your own top 10 list, we want to get those lists from you and read them and discuss them with you. So please reach out. Mike, any last words about this a very tired Mike's
shortest podcast so far in top 10 movie podcast history?
Well, that might be a good thing. Be a good thing.
Yeah, I guess I'll close with this. This is my favorite part of the show. But mainly because Mulley never knows what I'm going to say.
You don't know what you're going to say.
That's true. I know. I freestyle it all. Don't drink straight from the bottle. Pour it in a glass. We don't want you to look like an alcoholic out here. Pour it in a glass.
I disagree with that.
Okay, wow. That sounds like some trauma. We can discuss that later. And when you take shots, don't put ice in the shots. Why would you do that?
Wow. This is an all drinking advice podcast.
Yeah, it is. And remember, red wine should be drank hot, white wine cold.
Out of his mind. Okay, folks, that's the kind of advice that we're having here at the end of the show. On this particular, the animated movies is getting wine advice here at the end. So, hide your kids, hide your wives. All right, that's it. Thank you guys so much for listening once again and going on the journey with us. And whenever you're listening to this, we hope that you're doing well, and we hope that you'll join us once again down the road.
Or maybe you're not.
Or maybe you're not. Maybe you're going to take that ending advice a little too far. Who knows? Thank you guys for listening. Take care of yourselves and each other. We'll see you next time.
Later.
I never know what to say.
That's the fun part, man.